All right, this is John Krasinski, Pittsburgh Soccer Now. This is a special edition of Sounding Off on Soccer. Today, we're talking about the U.S. Open Cup, the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, the official name of it. With me to start off this edition of Sounding Off on Soccer is a familiar face, an old friend, former Pittsburgh Riverhound, former DC United, Rob Vincent. Thanks for joining me. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, John, it's been a while, so thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk to you today about it's the U.S. Open Cup, and you're from England, so obviously, you're familiar with this knockout style tournament. Maybe just let's start there. Your roots back home in England. How important is the FA Cup? What does that mean to the people of England? And just maybe talk about that first.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge. I mean, they talk about the magic of the FA Cup. My earliest memory as a child was Everton winning the FA Cup. Everton's my team. And so in 1995, when I was 4 years old, Everton won the FA Cup. And I still have very vivid memories of that day, being out in the street, partying, after the game. And then, they had the trophy parade, in Liverpool in the following days. So that really is a strong memory for me. So, the FA Cup, even though Everton haven't won it since, that's always certainly a very fond memory for me. I still have like a retro jersey from that year. So no, I still look back on that year fondly.
And then when you came to the United States as a player, obviously as a student athlete in college for Charleston, the experience, you were playing for West Virginia Chaos. I believe there was opportunity to get into the Open Cup at that point too for you, right?
Yeah, because I mean, you're playing in the PDL, and that's a very quick kind of 2.5, 3 month season. But one thing that you're very much aware of at that time is if you perform well and if you finish in a certain position in the conference, that you can potentially be entered into the Open Cup. So, I think, and obviously the Chaos did end up making it to the Open Cup once or twice recently, and we played them for the Riverhounds too. So, certainly for those smaller teams, and it's the same with the FA Cup back in England. It's an opportunity for, cross league, cross conference matchups, and certainly an opportunity for the semi-pro, the amateur teams to play up against professional teams. And I think that's really what the big attraction is to fans and players.
Yeah, and so you had that experience playing from the ground up, playing collegiate soccer, and then you get thrust into the opportunity to play with the Riverhounds. 2013 was your first year in Pittsburgh. 2014, the first 2 years you played in Open Cups. I still have this photo. It goes back to my original coverage. And I think it was Pittsburgh Sports Report, taking a picture of you taking a penalty kick against I always forget the exact name of the team. This is, how these games are. Sometimes you don't even know much about the opponents. RW Adria from Chicago, a Croatian-based ethnic type team, kind of an amateur club, very successful U.S. amateur club, but they came here and gave you guys a battle twice at Highmark Stadium. And so those are some of the early memories in the early part of the Highmark Stadium era, but you were part of that. Just what were those experiences like, and what was playing against teams like that?
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, I think in 2013 we went out in the first kind of round that we played in against the PDL team in New Jersey. I can't even remember the name of the team. I think that those PDL teams used to change their names almost every year.
Ocean City.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. I remember going to that place. I'd been there a couple of times in the PDL, and it was a tough place to go. But again, like they had a lot of fans. We were a pro team coming into town, and they made a big deal about it. And I think they beat us 2-1 that night. So yeah, I've been on that side of it. And then the following season, Adria gave us a really good game at Highmark. If I remember correctly, I think we played Red Bulls 2, which was full of a lot of young players. So they would have certainly seen it as an opportunity. But yeah, I mean, like I say, I think for those amateur teams, that's the highlight of their season, and no matter how successful they are at their respective level, the opportunity to go up against the pro team, you're going to have some players who maybe feel that they can still step up to that level. You're going to have some players who maybe didn't achieve that level, so they have that little chip on their shoulder. So you're always going to get their best shot, and the results never usually indicative of the quality necessarily. It's very much a kind of one-off, as we saw with many of the results over the years.
Yeah, and so you 2013, 2014 were kind of disappointments. I mean, with 2014, you did get an opportunity to advance far enough to play at Chicago Fire, there at their stadium, but the opportunity was really get an MLS team into Highmark Stadium. So the pressure was on. I think it was the third round. You're playing Tampa Bay Rowdies at that time, the NASL. And it's a 0-0 match. It's late in the match, and you were having a great season at that point in 2015. Maybe just walk us through that match. And it was a real tight match, but then at the end, obviously, you came through. You were one of the heroes, an Open Cup hero, if you will. But just talk about that match and getting a goal late, just as stoppage time arrived.
Yeah, well, quickly flicking back to 2014, I honestly completely forgot about the Chicago game. I was trying to remember how the Open Cup ended for us in 2014. So I think the fact that it was on the road with very few fans, I think we had a weather delay that game as well.
That's right.
I don't, like I say, I think by the time we came out to finish the game, I think everybody had gone home. So that lost a little, even though we were playing at Chicago Stadium, which was cool in itself. That kind of lost its effect a little bit. But yeah, I mean, fast forward into 2015, obviously we were in a completely different moment at that point. We were doing well in the league. We'd gone past the chaos, I think, in the first round, and the Tampa Bay game, what I remember in the build-up was almost kind of this Division 2 versus Division 3 argument. Which was the best? Should the USL be Division 2? Should it be Division 3? And so I remember that kind of little backstory. So we certainly felt from a USL standpoint that we want to represent the league well. I know there was a lot of USL and ASL matchups that particular week as well. So there was that. But I think also as well, just we felt so confident, and we also felt really as though we just wanted to progress. And I don't know, I can't remember. I think we did know before that game that we'd play DC in the next round. So
I think so.
Yeah, you have that riding on it. The game itself, I just remember it being really hot. It was a very slow first half. I think, sometimes as a player, like instantly if you're going to have the energy to be able to play a full game. And I remember that first kind of 15, 20 minutes just thinking to myself, okay, I hope Tampa feel as lethargic as I do right now, because or as we do. I just felt lethargic as a team. Unfortunately, it was, like I say, it was a relatively slow but even game. But as that sun goes down behind Mount Washington, you start to get a little bit of your energy back. And I don't remember too much. I do remember late in the second half, I had two very similar opportunities. And I think one, the goalkeeper saved. And then the second one, which went in, was a very similar strike from a very similar distance. But fortunately, that one crept in. And, in that moment, I think we were into injury time then. So then you start to think, all right, it's our day. And you start to get excited about what could come in the next round. But the fans were phenomenal. And there's a different energy at the Open Cup as well, because I think the fans see, you maybe get those midweek fans who can sometimes be a little bit rowdier, and then you also get the excitement of a big team coming to town.
Absolutely. And that was a low shot. And I remember getting a quote from Coach Steffens after the match, and he said, whenever Robbie gets near the goal, I say, shoot, Robbie, shoot. I will never forget that quote. So that season was very true, because I think if you'd have asked Justin for the previous two seasons, I was probably doing the exact same thing. But that season, they all seemed to go in, as we've talked about before. So, confidence was high at that moment. And, at that moment in the game, I think going back to what I said before, I don't think anybody really wanted to go into the 30 minutes. So I think there was a bit of relief all around. All right, so we're going to talk about the next game, the DC United game, in just a second. But we're going to bring somebody on that season who you scored a few goals against. So just hang on here for a second. All right, so joining us now, Nick Noble. Nick, currently West Virginia University goalkeeper coach, assistant coach, and obviously former Harrisburg City Islander. We're just talking. Rob, Vincent, and I are talking about the magic of the Open Cup, and
Right.
a number of years before Rob's experience, a few years before Rob's experience with the Riverhounds, you were part of the City Islanders team that stunned. I mean, you talked about this with me and for my book and some background on the Harrisburg City Islanders, but there were a number of times where I think MLS teams just did not want to play you guys.
Yeah, I mean, for some reason, we whether it was teams that they were just didn't want to come to City Island, which was certainly a home field advantage for us. But we certainly stepped up in the Open Cup. We had a lot of young players that really used that platform as a time to shine, and a lot of those guys had good games and good performances and good years, and it kind of propelled them into MLS teams in the next couple of years. So we certainly had a couple of runs there that were quite exciting.
And I'm sure, Rob, you can attest to not wanting to play at City Island.
Yeah, it was a real tough place to go. It always seemed to be hot and humid. The field, the grass was always long, and it was just, we never looked forward to that. Even that 2015 season where I felt we were at our best, it was just not a game we looked forward to on the schedule.
The good thing is that the Steel Army started to make the trips with you guys, so I guess that helped a little bit. And I know Nick didn't like that.
Yeah, that was great. Especially, I think, when that season we clinched the playoffs, it was great to have them there. But we had several games there over my career where it was just, they handled it to us a little bit, and like I say, there was probably more bad memories than good memories at Harrisburg, I think.
For sure. But let's take a step back. Nick, 2012, New England Revolution come to City Island. That was a pretty wild one. And maybe I'll let you kind of tell the tale. You've lived it a few times. You've told the tale a few times, but you take on the Revolution. I will say this, you go to extra time. Did we lose you, Nick? We go to extra.
I'm here. Sorry.
You go to extra time, and it gets really wild from that point. You can maybe take over.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly one of the spotlights in my memories of soccer games. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, we're 0-0 going into the first overtime, and we go three goals down after the first intermission. Before the game had started, there was a storm. It's already been delayed an hour, so it's probably 11 o'clock at night. We go down 3-0 after the first 15. Our fans, rightly so, are leaving the stadium. We in the second overtime, we score 3 goals, and we get one at the last minute to send it to penalties. And then we went in a shootout. I saved Benny Fellheiber's 5th penalty shot, and the 50 fans that we had remaining all stormed the field. I mean, I'm sure there were people that regretted not sticking around that one. And I remember calling my friends after the game saying, "Did you guys catch the game?" They're like, "Yeah, tough break on the loss." They had no idea that we were able to come back and win. But what a game that was. And that was a week that the round before we had beat the New York Red Bulls in a shocking fashion as well in an overtime game. So it's that year was something else in the Open Cup.
Yeah, I mean, so for both of you, just playing against an MLS team, obviously, Rob, you had the opportunity to play at that level. Nick, you've played professionally for a long time, but Rob was talking about even USL championship matches against the NASL teams. Like sometimes there's that extra motivation. You want to, for the league that you play in, for that sort of thing, to really represent. What does it mean to play up, especially second, third division teams playing against MLS teams? What is that like? What is that atmosphere like, especially if you can get those games at home?
It's just such a unique thing. Like I knew we were going to have this conversation. It's like, I'm trying to think of another sport where the amateurs truly get an opportunity to compete against professional, like the highest professional teams. And I think it sets soccer apart. I mean, you see all the domestic tournaments around the world and the FA Cup in England, like and the environments that these top teams have to go into and play, it certainly makes it special and unique for those small communities. And those teams will step up and play. That they will view it as their World Cup. So anytime, whether it's an MLS team playing an amateur or a men's team, like you're going to get a tough game. You're probably not going to get a perfect pitch. Like you're going to be thrown into an environment that's you're not used to. And these players these teams step up for it. I've experienced at all levels. I got my professional debut when I was with Chicago playing against what was then the Dayton Dutch Lions in the Open Cup. So,
Right.
and then I'm playing with the Harrisburg City Islanders against the Philly Union and the New York Red Bulls. So it's your opportunity to kind of play against the best of the best. And you see results go every which way in these tournaments.
Rob, can you just, maybe we transition now, you're getting ready to play DC United, the Riverhounds. There was just so much going on during those couple of weeks, obviously the Miracle on the Mon game where you come back and beat, Nick's Harrisburg team, but really then you got to turn around a few weeks later and finally Highmark Stadium gets to host a match against an MLS team. What do you remember about that?
Yeah, I mean, just a lot of optimism and a lot of confidence and just the feeling that we could do it. Like I say, at that time, we'd had mixed results in the league, but we'd had the couple of games leading into the DC game we'd won, if I remember correctly. So yeah, we certainly felt as though we could win and progress. And like, Nick had just alluded to, regardless of the size of the opposition, the Open Cup and all that it brings, it's a leveler. So, we're going to raise our level. You're going to have those little bit of nerves from DC who don't want to come in and lose. They may be resting some of their starters or whatever it might be. So, we went into that game with a lot of confidence, and even the fact that we went 1-0 down in that game,
right.
We still felt coming out into the second half that we could get back into that game and even win it. And I think we had chances to do so.
Absolutely. And the fans that day in Pittsburgh, I think it went to another level, didn't it?
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, we've talked about the Steel Army many times. I mean, they were brilliant and they always brought the noise and, that was another thing that really lifted us on days like that, where you need that little boost from somewhere. You maybe don't have the same kind of quality that an MLS team's going to have. You need every little, 1 or 2% that you can get. So they definitely gave us that. Again, when we equalized and we heard them react, there was a feeling amongst the team that we could go on and win that game.
And since I have both of you here in this forum, no, I'm not going to go Miracle on the Mon right now. Actually, I'm really curious because Nick, your West Virginia squad. I know it's spring and you're trying a lot of different things, but you did have an opportunity to see Bob Lilly and the Riverhounds at the end of the spring, their preseason. And I'm really curious, both of you, but Nick first, what your thoughts are about this Riverhounds team and their current, can they make a deep run in the Open Cup? Is it possible with this group this year?
Yeah, I mean, a lot, and making runs in the Open Cup is sometimes difficult because of how the schedule works, and I think it sometimes tests the depth of your squad. So obviously we saw like a pretty fine-tuned Riverhounds game a couple weeks ago. So, but again, I'm not sure how deep they are. So I'll let you guys chime in on that. But from what we saw, I commented to our staff that it was one of the better teams I've seen Bob Lilly put out there in a long time, and that he's put out some great teams. So they possess the ball, they compete. They're just it was good to show our guys like what a professional team looks like. Everything they do, they were very clinical in front of goal, created a bunch of chances. The defending looks sharp in the back. I know they have young goalkeepers. But again, the making runs in the Open Cup, sometimes you need some luck on your side as far as how it falls in your schedule. Certainly the USL's schedule's changed a lot than from the last couple of years. We're not playing back-to-back nights or two, 3 in a week, and then you throw in an Open Cup game. So I think it'll be a little more conducive for them to make a run. But again, I think I think any team in the USL can make a run in the Open Cup. I think you've seen it in the past. You've seen Richmond Kickers a couple of years ago made a run. It's certainly possible. I think they certainly have the talent on the field.
Rob, I know you try, it's hard for you to come, to catch many games in person, but I know, you're part of the organization. What are your thoughts on this current team and their prospects, for at least in the Open Cup?
Yeah,
I think Nick alluded to the depth, and I think he was kind of waiting for our thoughts on that, but I've written a lot about their depth this year already, but I'm sorry. So just curious about your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, like I say, I don't think it's a secret that, and I think Bob's made this clear, that I think he thinks it's probably the deepest, strongest squad that he feels he's had. And obviously results have been good to start the season. So when you talk about, is it possible? Sure, definitely. There's a lot of quality on that team now. And I think on any given day, they probably could go up against an MLS team, especially if it was a high mark and especially if they had the fans behind them. I don't think there's any reason why they couldn't go up and beat an MLS team and move on. But at the same time, like Nick alluded to again, it's anything can happen. It's a one-off game. You could have, you could be on the back of a long away trip where you have to rest several guys, or you go in a little bit lethargic, and anything can go wrong. So again, that's the beauty of the Open Cup, is that it's a bunch of one-off games where whoever wins that game progresses, and so yes, it's possible, but like he said, it's going to be tough, and whoever wins the Open Cup is definitely going to need some luck along the way. They're going to need a deep strong roster that can turn around 3 days after a tough game and go again. So but yeah, I mean, I would never write this Bob Lilly team off. They're capable of getting a result against anybody, I think.
And I sort of sense, like when you went through that 2013, 2014, that by 2015, there was a certain hunger to do well in the Open Cup. And I think with Bob's teams, especially at this 2-year layoff, it's nothing like we've ever seen. The Open Cup has not been competed for. This is the 3rd year. So I think there's an extra motivation for a lot of the teams like the Riverhounds.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm sure, I just know from a playing standpoint, regardless of maybe roster changes that happen for the game or wherever it might be, there's the motivation going into that game and what it can entail. I think, I don't think Bob will need to add any extra motivation to those guys. I think they'll go in and they'll want to have a run and they'll want to do well.
All right. Both of you, thanks for joining me. We couldn't set up a net on behind Nick and Rob, maybe do a little shootout here or something, but
I've blocked those memories out. Don't worry.
Well, I didn't want to overdo it today with the Miracle on the Mon. We're past that, right? But we've got an anniversary coming up soon, so of course I'll revisit that every chance I can get to sell my book. But guys, both of you, first of all, thank you for all your contributions to the book and to my stories. And I really appreciate everything you do to help us grow the game of soccer in our area and around the region.
That's always great to catch up, John. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Yeah, likewise. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for joining, and we'll talk to you both soon.
All right.
Sounds good.